So you're about to walk into a room where the client is waiting and you're about to tell him that the project is going to cost more. What would you tell him? Most firms, they immediately start to talk about contract scope, variation orders, who's right, what's wrong. But that's the wrong place to start most of the time, because by the time that you're discussing additional fees, something is already changed. That's why the additional fees are there. The project change, the scope change, maybe the client's expectation, taste, design, language, something or the other changed. And the commercial conversation is just your attempt to play catch up to reality. See, if the relationship was already adversarial, the lawyers are already involved, trust is broken down, then contract is, of course, the right place to start. But if it's not reached that stage, and there is a relationship, a working relationship worth preserving, then don't start over there. Because winning the commercial argument while losing the client's confidence is still going to create problems when you try to rescue the project. And this is where a lot of firms get into trouble because they start to defend themselves. Hey, this was not included in the original requirements. Look at the contract. This is what it says. This will have to be charged separately because this is how we always do it. All of these are completely correct. But clients, they rarely argue with invoices. What they're arguing with is fear, insecurity, and most of all, uncertainty. That's why I don't believe that the variation conversation should begin with the price. They should always begin with clarity. Walk the client through three things next time when this happens. Number one, walk them through what exactly changed. No judgment, you changed it or I changed it. No, just what changed. Two, why did it change? What was the root cause? And then the impact of it or the additional work that the decision created. Let me give you a concrete example. There was a hospitality client of a firm that decided after the schematic design was already approved that the lobby needed to feel a little bit more residential. Not just a bigger lobby, just a different function, right? A different feeling. That single decision required revised concept boards, a new FF&E package, re-coordination with lightning consultants who'd already specified exactly the kind of fixture that they wanted. This also needed updated ceiling plans, revised procurement schedule because lead times on the new pieces, they were 12 weeks out. The project manager did not start with the fee, they started with the story. She walked the client through exactly what changed, why it changed, and what was the new work that was created because of that decision. The client saw the 12-week procurement delay before they saw the $34,000 fee. And that's when the client understood the consequence of their own decision. And therefore, the fee conversation took 4 minutes. The project stayed profitable and the relationship stayed impact. Once everyone fundamentally agrees on facts, the conversation changes. You're no longer defending a fee, you're explaining the consequences of a documented decision. That's another shift that makes these conversations far healthier. Don't make the clients feel like they're paying for your inconvenience. Help them understand the value that they're receiving. A revised design, additional conversation, more documentation, more coordination, extra consultant, additional site involvement, new work has been created, and new work deserves fair compensation. See, every variation has a parent. You have to find that parent, not just the invoice. If you don't drill down to the root cause, then you'll always be starting with the symptom. Don't go to symptom, come to the root cause. For example, was the change caused by taste drift, that pattern that we've been discussing in the previous episodes, where aesthetic preferences change without a corresponding shift in requirements? Did project's requirement genuinely evolve? Was there a key stakeholder who was undiscovered earlier and they came in too late? Or did your own process create the problem? Because if all you do is document today's variation, then you protect today's margin. But if you understand why it happened, you reduce tomorrow's uncertainty. And that's the bedrock principle of how organizations compound. And that's what makes it far more valuable. And here's something else to think about. The next time you need to charge for additional work, don't begin with the price, begin with the story. Show what changed, explain exactly why it changed, and demonstrate the additional work, the additional line items which trace directly to this change. Let the commercial discussion follow naturally after this baseline reality has been set up. See, clients rarely remember the variation, they remember how the variation was handled. The firms with the strongest reputation, they're not the ones that avoid difficult conversations. They're the ones that handle them with clarity, transparency, and fairness. Everything you've seen in this video and will continue to see as part of videos in this series is based on principles that we've spent years building into the Immaculate platform. If you'd like to experience them inside an operating system built ground up purely for design and architecture firms, start your free trial today at immaculate.co.in/trial. Thank you.